Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the new Pirate Software allegations. They're probably not super new at the moment. I had a week off last week because we had the King's birthday. So I spent that time, well, not wisely. No, I was doing a little bit of research and, you know, I like to approach this topic and this idea with like the idea that it's real, or I like to give the benefit of the doubt, right? Especially when someone's coming with like these very real world problems, their experience. You know, I think it's important to me to treat it as a serious thing, but also to treat it as if it's coming from a good place. That being said, I did watch a few videos of people being critical of the quote-unquote victim. I don't know if I'm going to call them a victim as much. LyricWulf is the person. We'll be introducing all the characters in the story, but I think that it's interesting because I went through this in the beginning being very much on Lyric's side, or at least wanting to be a person who is supportive of this person and their struggles and be understanding of like where they're coming from in this like endeavor. What are they trying to do? What's their motivation? But interestingly, the last stretch of research that I was doing, you know, I was looking for so many things to dunk on Pirate Software with, and sure, there's like some stuff that we'll go over that is like a problem on his side, but interestingly, reading through all the text messages that LyricWulf provided on their website, like all of the sources that they have, I actually ended up flipping, and now I'm kind of on Thor's side with this, which I did not expect to happen. I'll admit I had a little bit of a bias coming into it. I felt like, listen, I already made a video on Pirate Software and I really didn't like him. I didn't like the way that he came off a lot. I still don't really like it, but I don't think that what is being alleged here is quite as serious as what LyricWulf is saying. I will say that I do believe LyricWulf in the way that I believe that they feel as though a lot of this stuff happened in a certain way. I do think that they are very passionate about how they feel on it, but I do have some criticisms for LyricWulf that I will get into, especially with like this whole thing. And another thing I want to mention is that when I was reading through all of LyricWulf's website, PirateSoftware.sucks, okay, I didn't read like the annotations that they included because I do agree with kind of what Tectone was saying. I watched Tectone's video on the thing, didn't like it, but I do agree that it does feel like the annotations that LyricWulf provided is intended to maybe preamp the viewer to look at things a certain way. And again, I do believe LyricWulf, this is what they think. I don't think they're just saying all this stuff just to like be like an asshole or like to make Thor look like the worst person ever. I do believe that this is what they feel. But in saying all that, let's get into the drama alert. Drama! Is it drama? I think it is kind of just drama at this point. So, one of the first things I want to say is I want to introduce who the characters are. I want to introduce like the people involved. So, we have Shay. Shay is currently 33 years old. In 2018, when the alleged things occurred, Shay was around 22 years old. I've also found conflicting information on Shay's pronouns because on the Pirate Software wiki, and like, yeah, there's a wiki, Shay is referred to as a dude and was referred to as a dude in the allegations at the time that they occurred in 2018. However, in recent tweets by Thor, Pirate Software, Shay is referred to as a she. So I got no idea. I think Shay might be a she, but I'm so sorry if I get your pronouns wrong or confused. I'm very sorry. I don't intend to do it that way. I just think that there isn't a whole lot of information out there about what's going on with that. I feel like Shay is a very private person, but if Thor is in the current day calling Shay a she, then I suppose Shay must be a she now or something, so I will try my best to make that make sense. Yeah. And also, Shay apparently lives with Thor. Thought that was kind of interesting. So, as I've been referring to Thor, Thor is Pirate Software, as most people and their grandma knows at this point. Thor was 31 in 2018 when the alleged things happened. He's currently like 42, I think. LyricWulf, who I will refer to as Lyric for brevity's sake. Thor will be referred to as Thor. Lyric was 20 years old in 2018, I think, and now is 27. So, the ages matter. Like, I am saying the ages for a reason. It does matter. So, bear in mind. Now, a little disclaimer that I want to make before we get into all this is that let's remember that these allegations we're going through, it is someone else's perspective. Both parties have their own experiences and opinions on the matter. They definitely have very varying opinions too, where we are sharing serious allegations. There's allegations that there's emotional abuse and manipulation for sexual and financial gain. So kind of serious stuff, serious matters. But this video should not be treated as a factual confirmation of situations or matters or events. I'm making this video for entertainment purposes and to help spread awareness about serious topics, but also to give a different perspective on all this stuff. I feel like a lot of the perspective on the internet is very dismissive of LyricWulf right off the bat. I don't think a lot of people actually went and read all of this stuff in here, which I think it's important, you know? I think a lot of people just defaulted to believe that this is for clout or something, or to take down Pirate Software in some way, which I'm not sure if I totally agree with that. And another thing I have to say is, obviously, don't go after these people that I'm mentioning. Don't harass them, please. That's not what this is for. That's not what we're here to do. It's kind of silly to go and do that anyway. So I have to say that, even though 50 people will watch this video, but you 50 people, be careful. Don't get involved in dumbassery. So don't worry, I haven't got a massive ego yet. 50 people will watch this video, but subscribe and I might. Alright, so we're going to go through the website a little bit. I know, please don't roll your eyes, but we have to get through this before I get to my stuff for my script. But you obviously need to know the context of how things happened, and because I read through it all pretty much just like yesterday and the past like weekend, a lot of stuff is still fresh in my mind, so I do have some other stuff to talk about, but we'll go through this. Okay, so this is LyricWulf's website. They're alleging that Thor emotionally abused and manipulated them for his own sexual and financial gain. There's even a text message where Lyric is telling someone that they feel as though both Shay and Pirate or Thor use them for fame and sex. So they said fame in those text messages, but now they're saying financial gain. Probably because saying someone's using you for fame it sounds kind of, in my opinion, it sounds kind of conceited, I think, but that's what they felt at the time when they made that text message. So now they're saying financial gain. It's a interesting differential. So yeah, the Lyric is basically saying that they were silenced in 2019, where they were essentially like manipulated to delete a bunch of their tweets and a bunch of there was a Google Doc that they wrote about their experience with Thor, and in that Google Doc they had apparently added screenshots of like their Telegram messages or something, and in those messages Thor's phone number was apparently in there and was kind of doxing his phone number. Lyric, I think, does say that they didn't intend to do that, and that they didn't want to edit the video, the images, so that it wouldn't come off as like something that they edited and doctored, which I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, you want to make sure no one gets the impression it's edited or doctored, but then you make this website where we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Okay, so so Lyric met Thor through doing piano transcriptions of music from video games. So they did a bunch of indie games where they make piano videos doing the music. They did Heartbound, Thor's game, and then Thor was like, "Oh my god, that's so great! You're amazing." And there was a whole thing about Thor being like, "Oh, you know, don't monetize the videos because it's our work." And then they tried to come to an agreement with like copyright and stuff, but they never came to an agreement with that. Okay. On August 26, 2018, Lyric made a large donation of $800 to Thor while he was streaming his game development, and alleges that from that moment onward, Thor suddenly expressed immense romantic interest, and the next day, unprovoked, initiated erotic roleplay. Yeah. It's like that. It's like that this time. There's ERP. So then there's like this whole argument that money was tied to love, or it was tied to affection, and there's a lot about that. And then there's a lot of conversation about Thor wanting Lyric to commit, and I can see why people would read this summary and they'd see these cherry-picked messages and be like, okay, who is talking here? Why is it so cherry-picked? But this is kind of how they construct their argument, okay? So, but they do have all the background conversations, like the full conversations that you can scroll through. It's very accessible, how thoughtful, right? But yeah, so there was this talk about a commitment, especially leading up to TwitchCon meetup. There was talk about having sexual relations at TwitchCon, but allegedly Thor was like not into it unless he was going to get a commitment out of Lyric, because Lyric was kind of coming off as like a slut in Thor's words, allegedly. Yeah, so there's that, but then there's this interesting argument to be made that perhaps Thor wasn't being super truthful about his own relationship status, and a lot of stuff talks about his marriage stuff. It gets weird, because Lyric ends up finding out at TwitchCon that Thor allegedly had a wife, and we do get court documents showing that Thor was indeed married in 2015 and then divorced in 2019. So yeah. And I don't know how, but there's some talk about he was still living with his wife by the time they did TwitchCon meetup, so I don't know. That's just what from what I've read. We don't really have a way of confirming that, and to be kind, I don't think the ex-wife wants anything to do with any of this. I think she wants to be very private, so I'm not going to really mention anything about her. Not that there's much to mention, but yeah. And there's an interesting thing where apparently when they went to TwitchCon, Thor kind of snuck away, allegedly. This is all alleged, guys. I don't know if this is real. Alleged. Thor allegedly excused himself to join Lyric in their hotel room, but Thor also had a room shared with Shay. And so Thor was like, well, I can't stay with you overnight because I've got to go back to my roommate's room, or they'll be like, where are you? They'll get suspicious. Which, I don't really understand that, but I guess he didn't want people knowing that he was kind of with Lyric. And then we realize why he wanted to be back in the room with Shay, because allegedly he had relations with Shay the same night he had with Lyric. Is this Love Island? Is this too hot to handle? I don't know. So that's allegedly what occurred. Now, then, the next day after TwitchCon, what happened is Thor was sick, so he didn't go out with anyone, he just stayed in the hotel room. So Shay and Lyric and I think some other people went to hang out and walk around, and Lyric said that they overheard Shay say to someone that Thor had a secret wife, and Lyric, having just had relations with Thor, having just committed himself to Thor, he in the text messages he goes like, finally, like there's this final moment where after looking through so many text messages over a period of time, Lyric is so not wanting to commit to Thor, and then suddenly it's like, Thor, will you date me? Like, over time it really did seem like Lyric wasn't ready for a relationship, but Thor kept coming at him with some kind of logical points, I think, and then eventually went, I will commit to you, Thor. And then it was just at that time that happened, Lyric found out that Thor allegedly had a secret wife and went a little crazy over it, which and then not to mention also being with Shay, because then what happens is Lyric starts asking Shay, what, do you have a wife? Like, what's going on with that? Like, oh, Thor has a wife, what's going on with that? And told Shay, like, me and Thor, like, did it last night. Like, here's the chat logs to prove that I was showing him where my hotel room was that night after he left the bar. And then Shay is like, well, if it makes you feel any better, their marriage isn't going so well, so, you know, you got that going for you. And then Shay was like, also, I like Thor as well, so that makes it a little bit of a problem. And then also, it gets worse. Apparently, Shay and Thor had an agreement that when they'd go to TwitchCon, they would be open, as in open relationship, I'm assuming, but they would be honest to each other about, like, if they were going to be. However, Thor never mentioned to Shay that they were going to do LyricWulf. Wow. So it's messy, it's dramatic. Oh my god. So then Thor gets really mad that Lyric shared the logs with Shay, because then Shay started talking to Thor about those logs, and that's kind of all we hear about that. And then later on, after the fallout of all that, Thor blocks Lyric. They don't talk again. Lyric charged back the $800 donation that they made, which I'm sure was quite devastating financially for Pirate Software. So, yeah, again, the chargeback is interesting because I think it's quite indicative of it seems to me like it was a choice made very irresponsibly, I would say. Because, like, the very first go of it, to donate $800, that's almost $1,000 on a single person, especially like a streamer. It's concerning, right? It's a little bit concerning, that much money to a random streamer. At that time, Thor was only streaming to like about 50 viewers, had like 6,000 followers. He wasn't as big as he is today. That being said, to me that's like still like, whoa, that's great. But still, to donate that much money is concerning, I think. And I don't think that should have been encouraged. And I do think Thor kind of had some, he did encourage the donations a little bit. So you can call that the parasocial way of streaming, but I think if you have to encourage people to make mega donations to get your livelihood, I think it's time to put the fries in the bag, bro. So yeah, and so now this whole website and stuff is Lyric's way of clapping back and being like, look, I never deleted my stuff because I thought, oh shit, the jig is up, my scam didn't work or something. They're making this whole thing to kind of clear the air around their name, I think. I think they wanted to do this to lift a weight off of them, because ever since this happened, they dropped out of college, they stopped making like content and shit. It sounds like their life really went awry after all this happened. Now, that being said, I'm not going to say I blame Thor for that necessarily. I think that, listen, shit happens. Sometimes you're dating like a dude, and you think he's like the bee's knees, and then suddenly he has like fucking 10 wives, all in different countries, 10 different families. Yeah, that fucking sucks, man. But what are you gonna do about it? You gonna ruin your life over it? Fuck that. So, yeah, so we'll get into it. We're not going to read the letter to Thor because I do not give a shit. I don't care. This was 7 years ago. Oh my god. And they say, please give the benefit of the doubt in case things are taken out of context or misrepresented. The aim of this document is not to hyperanalyze every small behavior. Rather, we will be focusing on the patterns of behavior and the intent behind them. See, this is my first issue with this document, and I think, Lyric, please take notes. Adding all of these annotations, trying to inject like Darvo into it, does not give you a good profile. Like, people are not going to see that and think, they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt for doing that. They're going to think that you're trying to be manipulative. They're going to think that you're poisoning the well, as Tectone said. I don't know. I don't think they're intentionally trying to poison the well, but I think you should let people read stuff before trying to tell them what you think this and that means, and if you have to add annotations to the text messages and say, this is the intent and this is the pattern, I think you're trying to guide people through it, and I don't think that's the appropriate way to do this. If I'm being honest, I think it puts you in a bad light. And also, you need to be aware and mention that you cannot focus on the intent behind someone else's messages, because at the end of the day, that is your speculation, that is your perception of how things are. You can say that Thor's intent here and there was like to do something or other, but you actually don't have any way of knowing that. You're not in his brain. You don't know that. So that's a big problem that I have with like all of this stuff, and that's kind of what turned me off of Lyric's side a little bit in the beginning. But there's more. So we have the background of like who Lyric is, and Lyric is a college, well, was a college student. They're not anymore, I guess, doing mechanical engineering and aerospace engineering, but it seems like they really like music. They really like making music. They talk a lot about their GPA and how life went downhill for them. Then we have who is Thor, which focuses on his romantic relationships, or the alleged ones. Yeah, it says during these events Thor was living with his wife. I don't know how we can confirm that. I don't think there is a way to confirm that, but they add all of his online profiles and all of Shay's online profiles. It's okay. So then we have the conversations. Now, we're going to get really deep into the weeds with this one, okay? So first things first, we got love bombing. Now, if you don't know, love bombing is kind of a thing where if you just started dating someone and they start being like, I can't imagine my life without you, you're like the best thing ever, you start giving each other maybe like promise rings and it's been like 2 weeks. Holy shit. Also, another thing about it is like being like, dude, you're like the best partner ever. I don't see why would anyone not want to be with you? And it's like, it's intense. Yeah, as it says here, love bombing can be described as intense displays of affections and declarations of love early in relationships. Which is it's not good. I think some people might not see a problem with it. It's not good because it's, I don't think it's entirely truthful when people love bomb. It can also be very manipulative, whether they intend for it to be or not. It's not great. It's not great. If you notice yourself being love bombed early in a relationship, take that as a red flag. And if you're the person who does that, then stick a red flag on your forehead. So they're saying that for abusers, love bombing can be the first phase of a cycle of abuse, which is followed by periods of devaluation and shame. Yeah, so it's kind of like this pendulum swing of like really intense loving, and then like maybe they ignore you and stuff, or maybe they just. They're saying that you might switch from intense affection to criticism, control, and emotional abuse. I'm sure that that's a part of it, yeah. So from the abuser's perspective, love bombing is an investment. It's a way to establish rapport and can be later cashed out in the form of compliance, submission, and control. We're not going to read this because I don't like seeing the out of context stuff. Basically, Lyric points out like texts where they feel like they are kind of evidence of these parts of like abuse, where it's dedication and, you know, oh, Thor saying, I want to be on voice chat with you every day and you make my life better and you're so good to me. You know, like and going, marr, marr, her, her. Ooh. Oh, fuck. It just came out. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so they're being all lovey-dovey. I don't know if I would characterize this as love bombing, saying you make my life better. Like, oh my god, am I a love bomber? I remember having similar text messages like this when I first started my relationship. Maybe not the planning to be on voice chat every day, but I feel like you could interpret that as just being like kind of clingy, but also you can interpret that as like, look, it's an online relationship, so with online relationships it's important that you do have communication quite frequently, but and then again, it's like, I plan to be on voice chat with you every day. It's not like it's going to happen, but it's like, yeah, I want to talk to you like every day. Like, that's my plan. Like, I'm gonna send you messages like every day. Good night. Good morning. You know? I don't think that that's love bombing. And if that's all they have to say as like love bombing, you know, unconditional support. Can't see why anyone would break up with you, to be honest. Again, that's something that they're saying that this is a very weird statement for a 31-year-old to make to a 20-year-old. Isn't that weird? Maybe he's just being nice, you know? Then we have pet names. Training submission. Ugh, this is hard to go through, but basically, Lyric is the one in blue, Thor is the one in grey, and Thor's like, sounds to me like you like the idea of being a submissive pet. Sleeps on the floor, wants a collar, loves my bone. Ugh. Little pet wolf. Anyway, so there's like a lot of, you can read the text yourself. I'm not gonna read it all for you. Devoted wolf. I'm yours. Ooh. Anyway, so then they talk a lot about meeting up, which I already talked about. Thor says, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with you at TwitchCon. I call Big Spoon. Super wanty. Oh, fuck. Oh, okay, so you click on the images and it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know. Oh my god, I've never seen this before. Oh. Oh. I haven't seen this before. This is the exported data? Dude, what the fuck? Kneels with his knees to your left and right at about waist level. He massages. And then here's a picture of paw print socks. What the fuck? So then they're RPing. Oh. Oh my god! Explodes on your pajamas. Oh my god, man. Oh my god, I didn't know there was more. So then there's more wearing the socks. Okay, I'm sorry, this is... What is this? The new $500 tier looks amazing, it's gone. Oh yeah, so this would probably be because Thor did a Kickstarter campaign, and as you know with Kickstarter campaigns, there can be like really high tiers, and initially, Lyric pledged like $3,000 to his Kickstarter campaign, and so that $500 tier there's talking about, I think Lyric was one who pledged to it, and the person it was supposed to be a Polaroid artwork of the pledge's OC character and the dog from Heartbound, I think, or I think there's a dog in Heartbound, and it was supposed to be like that. Anyway. So yeah, so wow, I didn't read all this stuff. Oh my god. Yeah, so there's a little bit of that. And talking about the Kickstarter now, there was some seeming insecurities from Thor about like whether the Kickstarter would do well, and Lyric alleged that Thor's sort of chatter about the Kickstarter was kind of making Lyric feel guilty, like he needed to pledge more. I think initially it was a $100 pledge, and then after Pirate was like, it's not going so well, I think it's gonna fail. So then they pledged like $3,000. I think it went incrementally up, but it ended up being $3,000. For this next part, we're talking about moving house. And these text messages are dated the 30th of August. Now, if you don't remember some context, when they did the $800 donation, which they say kind of jump-started their relationship with Thor, that was on the 26th of August. So it's been like a week, man. It's been a week. So Thor is asking if they live on their own. And that's when we talk about, you know, being 21, their mum wants to kick them out, yada yada yada. And they're talking about they want to move a little bit closer to Thor, just so it's a little bit better. So they say they ask Thor what city he's in, and then they want to talk about going to Cal Poly if they accept him. And it's about 4 hours. If they get in, it's about 4 hours to and from or something. Or there. Yikes, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time, but also I feel like it's... Is it doable? I don't know. 4 hours is a lot of time for driving. That's a lot of time. So they're not confident about getting into Cal Poly, but also they say that future moving would be easier if things work out between them. So it's interesting here that I'm just realizing that Lyric is talking about the future, like, oh, if things go well, we could even move in together. Which is interesting because they do kind of go back and forth on this idea of, like, committing to Thor. So, yeah, and then he says, you seem pretty set on moving in with me. And then they're like, yeah, I suppose so. Do what gives me the most options now so that I can make an easier choice in the future. Okay. It's not really much of a response, Thor, but whatever. So they're talking about moving. So they're bringing up the topic of moving, suggesting that Lyric moves closer to him. Reinforces the idea of moving closer with a state of fact detached from his own desire. I don't really follow that, to be honest. Yikes. You know, it's like, let's remember this. Let's remember this. It's August 30th. Let's see. It's been 4 days. It's been 4 days, and you're thinking about going to a certain college just so you can be close to him. So then we have the cheating. So there was an incident where Thor felt as though Lyric was cheating on him. And this is where we get into a lot of the weeds of, like, what does it mean to be in a relationship? Like, they're like defining the terms of their relationship in a way. And LyricWulf is kind of dumb here, I'll say. He says it himself, so I'm not like being mean to LyricWulf, okay? Lyric did say that they feel like they're very dumb. So what I found interesting here is that this is September 25th, so some time has, yeah, a substantial amount of time has kind of passed since they first got together. I want to spend more time moving forward, Thor says. You seem to have pulled back a bit, or become very busy. And Lyric says, like, oh, I haven't been talking as much or erotic role-playing with you as much because school's been beating me up and I've been busy. And then Pirate's like, you just seem so interested and then suddenly not. Like, that's weird. Which I can agree, that can come off as kind of weird, but if you're busy, right? Yeah. So then Lyric is talking about having a hard time communicating what they're thinking and feeling. And they said that, I also don't think I would really end up being good enough for you as a mate. I say partner. So I've kind of backed off in that regard. Though that doesn't change the fact that I want to spend more time with you still. Blech. Why was that so hard? So basically what Lyric is saying is that, like, yeah, I don't think I'm a good fit for you. I don't think I'm a good partner. I've decided that, and so that's why I started to pull back. Which, here's my take on this whole thing, right? So, my take on this is what really happened is that Thor said, I want to slow things down. I want to slow things down because this relationship feels like it's going too fast, and he didn't want to feel like he was a rebound. Because his point of view was that if the relationship's moving really fast, that can be kind of bad, that can spell bad things for your future and not be the best for the relationship, right? And it happens all the time. People move too fast. I think that people get married way too quickly, right? They have kids. Dude, people out here having kids and they don't even have a fucking ring on their finger. It's crazy. But yeah, so I actually really was in agreement with Thor. Thor was saying, like, I asked you to slow down a bit because I want the relationship to work. I care about the health of the relationship, and for him, that just meant slowing things down a little bit. Which I think is perfectly valid to say. It's hard to know exactly what they meant by slowing down. I think maybe about, like, life decisions and stuff, which makes a lot of sense if, like, 4 days after establishing a relationship, you're talking about moving for someone. That's pretty bananas. That's pretty bananas in my opinion. So, yeah, my problem here is that Lyric made this decision by his lonesome to, that they weren't good enough for Thor. And Thor rightfully says, it seems that you hide and make decisions instead of discussing things like this. You know, never bringing these concerns to light and made up his own mind about it. Lyric made his own mind about things, which is not fair because you are in a situation where there's someone else you have to consider, and, you know, it's worth talking to that other person. Which is kind of ironic if this whole time he was hiding a wife that he had. Very ironic of Thor, so let's keep that in mind also. Because my opinion is that I kind of don't care if it's not going well with your wife at this stage. I think that if you're fucking around with someone, they deserve to know all of the information. You know what I mean? Like, if someone decided that they wanted to stay with you even though you had a wife and it wasn't working out, at least that's their choice that they're making. That's their decision. They have all the information to do it. And if they decide to leave, then they decide to leave, but it should be their choice, and they should have that information. Like, there is a risk in there when you fuck around with married people and not know about it. So Lyric didn't know about it at this point in time, apparently. So I think that if that is true, this doesn't put Thor in a very good light, in my opinion. So yeah, Lyric was all like, thanks for saying all this stuff, now I get it, thank you, good night. And then Thor is like, I feel led on. You came on strong and suddenly pulled back when I said to slow it down. Now when I'm interested, you're suddenly not interested in moving forward. I don't want to be a rebound, but it pretty much feels like I am right now. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. He even says that Lyric came on really strong and suddenly pulled back. Sounds kind of like Lyric was love-bombing Thor instead. That's food for thought. Food for thought. Yeah, so then Lyric is saying that they took it to heart, the whole, like, slowing down thing. And my thinking is that I think that when Thor asked them to slow it down, Lyric took that personally and went, oh, that's like a rejection of me. That's a conflict. That's an incompatibility with us. I found that interesting, and I think that's a interesting point on how Lyric might be thinking and feeling about this stuff. And if you take that as like a criticism or as like a incompatibility when it's a perfectly reasonable thing to request, I think that kind of says a little bit about Lyric. But it also seems like, going through the text, that Lyric doesn't really know a whole lot about relationships, or even what like a lot of the terminology means. I really took it to heart when you said we should slow things down in terms of relationship. Yeah. Well, I said that because you were talking about life changes and love within an hour. That's a bit fast by anyone's terms. And Thor doesn't even mention love bombing at all, but I genuinely feel like this was something where I was like, I'm kind of on his side here. Yeah. Yeah, make decisions that affect both parties without them involved are legit never good. Yeah. Alright, and then, like, there's this thing where he's, like, in a bad mood, because, yesterday, one of our prominent members openly attacked me on stream, claiming that I didn't care about the game and never do dev streams anymore. And he's talking about, like, oh my god, he's fucking yapping. Yeah, apparently DreamHack was gonna give him, like, free table, and they couldn't do it or something. Yeah. And then, oh, you know what I found really interesting about this? Someone compared him to Phil Fish, the guy who made Fez. And Lyric is like, oh, people are antsy because they just like the game. They just want it to come out, right? And then Thor says, honestly, it's not really about the game. It's about people wanting to be a part of something. And now, if you watched my previous video of the Dr. K interview, you'll notice that Thor says this about the Mana Gem drama, where all the people that are, like, spamming Mana Gem in his chat, they just want to be a part of something. And I thought that was quite interesting that he said that here too. It seems like this is something that he's always kind of said a little bit. So that's one of the things that made me go like, oh, these texts could be, like, pretty legit, man. They might be. Most of these people don't care about the game or us or the community. They want to feel important or special to others. That's the grand majority, and that's how any celebrity material goes. Yeah, okay, yeah. And then, yeah, at this point I think that Lyric had 100k subs, because they were talking about their community being kind of different. But they had a YouTube community instead of a Twitch community. So, yeah. And then Pirate was here saying that the majority of financial support he got is from the random mega donations and then the sponsorships. But yeah, it goes mega donations, sponsorships, loots, bits, and then subs. That was the tier of his financial support at that time. Which is pretty interesting to hear about that stuff, I think. And if you want to talk about mega donations, LyricWulf was kind of a mega donator. And then he's talking about another game he's working on, and then they are like, whoa, woohoo. And then we got this picture of Thor and like his cat, which I thought was kind of interesting. I couldn't figure out what cat this was. It's very personal, you know, like it's very personal. There's like a couple, I guess there's more pictures in here that I never knew about because it had the export thing. But I don't know how I made that happen. Anyway, so that's the whole. Oh yeah, wait, the cheating. We didn't go over the cheating. So apparently, Lyric pulled back, and erotic roleplayed with someone else online and told Thor about it. And Thor was very upset about that and said that Lyric was cheating on them with some other dude. And I kind of think Thor was like kind of rightful here, not in like the cheating aspect, because they don't seem to have like a, I don't know, like a relationship outlined, but Lyric was saying like, oh, you know, like you weren't online, you were asleep, and, you know, I just wanted to do something about how I was feeling, so he erotic roleplayed with somebody else. And he later on says that he cares about this somebody else because, oh my god, it's a whole thing. So Thor was like, yeah, great, you cheated on me because I was asleep. Awesome. Neat, dude. And then Lyric was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that, yeah, I didn't know that that offended you. Fuck, I don't, it's cheating. Is there another thing in here? Accusation. Yeah, so Pirate Software had tried to initiate ERP with Lyric in this time, and Lyric was like, oh, I'm gonna go to bed, and then erotic roleplayed with someone else. Yeah, because they were under the impression that Pirate Software wasn't interested in them sexually. He's like, wow, really did not expect that. And so, but like the whole excuse is like, oh, I'm so busy with school, but like I can't wait for you to be online to erotic roleplay with you. Yeah, so the Pirate's like, this is fucked up, like I have no idea if you even realize how fucked up it is to me. Because he's all like, we have plans to meet up IRL in a month, like what the fuck, what the hell, what the heliante? That's exactly what he said. And he's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't sleep with anyone. Neat. Mine's 0. Fucking 0 because I told you I was into you. And I had mutual plans with you to express that in person. Yeah. It is kind of ridiculous though. They bought tickets, they had hotels lined up to go to TwitchCon to meet up. And he's like, yeah, I don't think Thor's into me. I'm gonna go ERP someone else. Yeah. I don't know. It's not great. Oh yeah, he says pro tip. Right. The Redditor Pirate Software. Pro tip. Donations don't include fucking other people. Yeah. It also doesn't include being married to other people. But allegedly here we are. Clear had enough time for someone else. Hope it was worth it. And then he's like, no, it wasn't worth it, I regret it, I'm sorry. You had time to e-fuck someone else twice, in your own words. That is mad. Restarted, he says. Oh yeah, and then he sends a fucking YouTube link. You wanna know what this YouTube link is? It's the Ice King from Adventure Time being like, you really blew it. Cringe. Absolute cringe. Yeah, it's true. It was needless. He didn't need to ERP with this person. If he should have talked to Pirate Software about things. Oh my god, it is total drama island. It is drama city here. But that's the cheating section. So this is the no means yes section, and I believe that this is basically all about defining their relationship and talking about like this ERP situation. It's October 1st. Yeah, so Lyric is kind of like, oh, you know, I want to be close friends with you and still do the ERP stuff, but I also don't want to be committed to just you. Pirate Software is kind of like, well, I don't want that. That's not what I'm about. If you're going to be with other people, then we're not doing anything at TwitchCon. And because it's dangerous health-wise and because it feels bad. Yeah, so then there's this interesting thing where there was some insane miscommunication that Pirate Software was kind of going off of. There was this part where Lyric was saying that he hooked up with someone in person, and Pirate was like, whoa, you fucking hooked up with someone else? Holy fucking shit, dude. And then as it turned out, Lyric was saying hooked up in the term, in the 80-year-old term of, we were hanging out, we watched like TV or whatever. His mum was home. They didn't actually hook up. So then Lyric, they have this stupid conversation where he's like, dude, hook up? Like, I thought you were a fucking slut. Yeah. And then Lyric is all like, oh, I can't be in a relationship with you because I promised a friend I would stay out of a relationship for a year. That to me feels like kind of crazy. You promised someone else that you would stay out of a relationship for a year? That sounds like there's some sort of problem here. Now, me personally, I've never had to do that before because I can actually be quite happy by myself. I don't have like problem where I need to go from relationship to relationship to relationship, like om nom nom nom, you know? Like I don't need to do that. I have noticed people, there are people that I know in my life who go from relationship to relationship to relationship and they never get any time to reflect. They never get any time to decompress from their last one. That's a really big problem. You need to do what LyricWulf promised to do and I guess failed. You need to stay out of a relationship for at least a year. To promise another friend that you're not going to be in a relationship for the rest of the year or like for 365 days, you have to wonder, how did that conversation come up? How did that come up? Why? It's kind of a red flag for me, if I'm being honest. And I'm surprised that Thor didn't really ask anything else about that. Yeah. So you want an IRL sexual relationship with me, but not to be committed. But you also don't want to be IRL sexual with anyone else. And Lyric's like, yeah? So then Thor's like, well, what's the problem? What's the problem here? Why are you like this? I agree, Thor. I was like, Thor, I'm with you on this. This doesn't make a whole lot of lick sense. So then, I fucking hate this shit, dude. Like, to be fair, Lyric at this time is 20 years old. They're very immature, in my opinion. Like, really immature. Like, the responses with, like, these emotes, like, these, like, emoticons and stuff about, like, a serious topic, it comes off as very childish. Like, Thor is asking you a very important question. Why do you want to keep erotic role-playing with, like, this random friend online? You know, why do you want to keep doing this if it's not going anywhere? You know, you have me. Like, we're talking, we're emotional, we're on a level together, I'm assuming. Why do you feel the need to be non-committal and keep fucking this other dude? And then Lyric is like, well, I care about him a lot, ooh. Like, I'm sorry, this is a serious conversation. This is not a place where we should be putting in ooh-woos and, like, fucking, you know, like, nuzzles your neck emotes. Are you in love with him? I wouldn't marry him or anything. Also, no. It's like, it... Now, here's where I kind of have to say the age stuff. I have a whole thing written down, but just briefly. Thor here. Listen, man. It's at this point in time where you kind of have to reflect and be like, is this a relationship with, like, an adult? Or is this a relationship with someone who is, like, you know, grossly immature? And I'm sorry, but, like, I don't know how you can be attracted to this. I really don't know. I don't know how you can be attracted to this, because I was getting really frustrated reading a lot of this because Lyric's The way Lyric was like texting and stuff was just like pissing me off. It's annoying. So I'm kind of reading through this like, Thor, you're 31 here, right? How are you 31 and talking to someone like this? I don't know. It's just like, it's hard for me to imagine. Like, for me personally, I don't think I could ever imagine myself being in a relationship with someone younger than me. Especially not like, shit, it's like an 11-year age gap or something, right? 11! Dude, 11? You mean to tell me Thor at one point was 11 years old and Lyric wasn't even was like just born? That's crazy. But anyway, we won't talk too much about the age stuff yet. So that's literally all like that section is. And Lyric was like, yeah, I guess there is no point, because guess what? The guy he was erotic role-playing with also had a mate. I don't know why we keep calling them mates, but it feels very inappropriate to call someone your mate. I don't know why. It feels like inherently like kind of this is my breeder. This is my breeder? That's what I feel like mate means, right? Is that what mate means? Your mates for life? I don't know. There's just something so like animal husbandry about that makes me... Maybe that's like their community type thing, so I'm not going to be a bigot about it, I guess, but not for me. There was a night where Lyric asked Pirate Software how much money it would take to make Heartbound free for like everybody, and Lyric said that they were thinking about dumping their entire life savings into that endeavor, but had nowhere near compared to what companies had offered Thor. So that was kind of interesting. That's yeah. So October 1st, let's take note of what Thor says. They're saying that Thor wants money. Dude, you donated $800 to him? Unrequested? Like what? And then he came and thanked you for that, but you're gonna say he wants money? Like, yeah, you did kind of give him like $800. I don't mean to be victim blamey here, because I just don't see how you can not look at that situation from the get-go and think, this is kind of sketchy. This is kind of sketchy. You know? Like, a relationship that starts off like that it's weird, right? Like,
if you're like a stripper, for example, and you have a client who gives you a lot of money, and then they meet you outside of the club, you're kind of expecting to get money doing that, right?
And I just have to say that, like, if you're out here giving people lots and lots of money and you get attention for it from that person, that is directly incentivizing you to give them more money. Young, dumb, and full of money, I guess. I think from Thor's perspective, like, thinking about Thor, though, in that instance, I would feel very, very uncomfortable with someone giving me that much money just, like, out of nowhere, because I feel like that kind of money doesn't feel like it's free, you know? And for them to initiate a relationship after that, you have to think about, like, the foundation of what you're building this on. Okay, so Thor says here, you said a lot of wild shit since we met. Said you loved me, said you would give me your entire savings, wanted to live with me, wanted to be with me forever. Now you talk about hookups even though they weren't hookups, like we said, the hookup situation, which was total, like, miscommunication, and how you want to keep ERPing with the dude online despite him being with someone, and it being not okay for me, and stopping us from moving forward. Like, our relationship is at, like, a stagnant point. We're like, there's a blockage here. If you want to be with me, if you like me, you'll stop ERPing with random fucking dudes. Especially dudes who already have, like, boyfriends. High-key problematic. Although I think the guy and his boyfriend, like the ERP dude, I think they had an agreement, so, like, we already know some of the items in this list are exactly what Thor wants. How do we know that? You loved me, you wanted to live with me, recall that Thor persuades Lyric on this. It's not Lyric's own idea, I don't believe that, we just read it. Wanted to be with me forever. And then there is this item thrown right in the middle, you would give me your entire savings. So, let's reread this. Thor, dejected, I guess that's what that is signifying. He said, you said a lot of wild shit since we met. Now, what that tells me is that... Oh, God. Oh, can we read above? Yeah, so he's telling Lyric to get his priorities straight about the ERP situation. And he's like, you've said a lot of wild shit since we met. And what that tells me is that Thor is like pointing out, dude, these are like not normal ways to like talk to someone. That's the way I interpret it. Lyric is interpreting it in a very different manner. Yeah, it's very different. And then Thor says, for all intents and purposes, you either didn't mean those initial things you said to me, or you don't mean the ones you're saying now. I mean, I guess I can see Lyric's point in that, like, you said a lot of wild shit to me. You said you would give me your, like, entire savings, wanted to live with me. It is wild shit, but, I don't know if I would include that if I was writing that, Thor. I really don't think I would. In fact, if someone said that they were going to give me their entire life savings, I'd be like, please don't. Please take care of yourself. Like, please, that's weird. Like, do you not... The involvement of, like, money in this is so bizarre to me, but it's true. Lyric is the one who said it. Why did you say that? That's super uncomfy. I feel like Lyric wouldn't have said that unless they felt like that would have some sort of pull. Because why else would you say that? I'm gonna give you all of my life savings. I'm gonna give you all my life savings to fund, like, your dreams. Please don't. Please don't. That's weird. So, okay, but their focus is that they think Thor just wants them for money. Yeah, it's weird. What else do they say that? I read the whole thing and noticed a pretty big misunderstanding there. I did mean those things at the beginning. Okay. And Lyric is like, I can't give you the time you deserve, Thor. You deserve better. I'm a double-time student. I'm just a total mess right now in terms of responsibilities. I just don't know if I can handle my stress. I was infatuated with you when we first met. Boom. That is a problem. That is a problem. Infatuation? Oh, I was obsessed, really? That's not good. This is the reason, Lyric, why you need to not be in a relationship for a year. Probably longer than that. They were obsessed. We have confirmation that Lyric was obsessed, infatuated with Thor, and that the financial side of things, like, I don't think they were in the right state of mind when they were making these donations, if I'm being real. It's really quite bizarre. It's really quite bizarre. So, yeah, anyway, they're just like, I don't know, talking about things. Thor saying that the shit between them is bringing them down. Yeah, so then this is where I say that Lyric starts coming around to, like, the idea of commitment, because they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I've been stupid, you know, what's the point of me erotic role-playing with this person? And Lyric's like, I couldn't give you an answer, I wish I could explain it, but I think you're right to some degree about it being a furry thing with me. They say, as embarrassing as it is, that's how it's been with me for a long time now, and as I'm growing up and maturing, I'm starting to see that there really hasn't been a point to it. I want to stop for you and myself. It's irrational, and I can see how it'd be frustrating to try and deal with. That's what I'm sorry about. You said I've been wishy-washy, and I think it's because I couldn't make a decision about it. I was really feeling a cognitive dissonance, and I just didn't know what to think. I'm also sorry about that, and I think I have a better idea of what I want for my future. Yeah. So then Thor's, like, asking him about the future, and Lyric's like, I want to be stable and focus on one person. And live with the significant other? Live with significant other? And then Thor's like, oh, well, I guess you luck on that then. It's a good, solid plan. And then he's like, I'm going back to coding. I thought you meant you wanted to be with me, but I'm going back to coding. And Lyric's like, I don't even know if you'd want me after all this. Yeah, so, okay. And then Thor's, oh yeah, so then, Lyric finally says, Thor, I would like to date you. And Thor's like, what? And they're like, I want to be more direct with you, Thor. And Thor's like, yeah, that's good. So then, that's kind of how things go. They decide that they want to date. Thor wants a week, though, for things to calm down. Then they exchange many, emotes or whatever. Yeah. Going out with Thor's going out with his grandma for a bit. That's lovely. Wait, his frequent shitty nightmares since he was a kid? I don't read these. What the fuck was that? Oh my god. Jeez. Okay. So the more of that, I'm just wondering if there's anything else involved in here. Bed. Sure. Dramavian talking to me? Dramavian talking to me? I don't know who that is. What? Well, Twitch fucked us. Game development is no longer a category. Oh. Wow, the game development category got removed? That's the first I'm talking. It's the first I'm hearing about it. We're supposed to stream onto science and tech now? What? That's crazy. Seriously? Twitch deleted a full game dev category? That's insane. Wow. Less new viewers equals death. Oh, wow. No, probably. Wow, oh my god. Okay, hey, how about you in Dragalia? Okay, I don't care. Still having a hard time finding lobbies. I do not care about your video games. Okay, whatever. So, that is Thor's goals, I guess. Thor wants obsession. I mean, you came out the gate being like... Okay. I don't know. We went through this already, kind of, so, like, we don't need to go through it again. I just don't know if Thor desires for Lyric to have an unhealthy obsession with him. So, you admit that the obsession you had with him initially was unhealthy. Perhaps it's time... Thor wants absolute control of Lyric. Thor needs to correct this as it is the biggest threat to his goals. I'm not reading these annotations because Thor has a point though, like, what is the point of... I'm not going to go through the ERP again, but it really is like... Whenever Thor would try to disengage and be like, alright dude, well, I don't want this type of relationship, so I'm gonna see you out, like, I hope you best of luck, and they're like, but I do want to be with you, Thor. But I do. But I also want to ERP with my wolfy best friend. It doesn't make sense. If Thor's going off of what he's being told, what little he's being told, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because they're saying, Lyric is saying the only thing stopping us from moving forward is that I don't know if I'm ready to date yet, but they really want to have a physical relationship with Thor when they go to Twitch. And to Thor, there is no physical relationship if there isn't like a confirmed relationship or like a monogamous relationship. So, yeah. I don't know what's really going on here with Lyric. I don't know what the real reason is for not being ready to date. If they said that their boundary was that they weren't going to date for a year and Thor's like, well, I need you to be committed to me, then that's where you go, alright, love it, see ya, I'll catch you in the next one, maybe, like, whatever, right? That would be the mature thing to do, I guess. Alright, so the next part we're up to is abandonment. So, let's see, what are they talking about here? They say, Thor's like, you have a better idea of what you want for your future. What is it you want? They say, take note of how Thor framed the conversation as benign and caring. What is it you want? Meanwhile, he's attempting to guide me closer to the answer he wants to hear. Thor is fixated on having me come to the conclusion myself because he knows the effect of self-persuasion, that I'm more likely to truly believe I want to be devoted to Thor if I come up with the answer by myself. Okay, so here's another thing that I can see. I can definitely see Lyric wanting to please Thor. I can see him as being a sort of character that they want, they look up to, and they want, yeah, like someone to please, someone who's cool, who knows a lot of stuff. I mean, so many people follow and love, like, watching Thor's videos because he does come off as, like, a really cool dude. Like, he's the coolest, he knows everything. He's just a really smart guy. Like, yeah, it's kind of... I think we can all agree that he's kind of, it's kind of like that. He's kind of a know-it-all. And yeah, it's not hard to imagine that someone would feel enamored by that. They'd feel like they want to impress someone like that and, you know, please them. And so I do genuinely believe that with Lyric, they were willing to sacrifice maybe their own personal boundaries in some ways to please Thor, but so I do think we need to recognize that there is like a power thing at play in some ways with like age, and you know, having power in like a stature kind of way. Apparently, I'm new to this concept, but apparently you don't have to be like Brad Pitt to have people, you know, lord over people, you know? Like you don't need to be Brad Pitt. That doesn't necessarily mean you have a power dynamic because you're more or less famous than someone. You can just be like a authoritative figure in someone's life, and that's a power dynamic, right? I I think that definitely could be something at play there, you know? But whether or not that's like a super intentional thing, or whether they're super aware of this, you know, like that's another thing. I don't know if I would say that Thor is super aware of like that part of things, you know, like in the Dr. K interview he did say that he doesn't really think of himself like at all. He doesn't really have much self-reflection, I think. And I think with this situation, I mean, if you know their age and they're 11 years younger than you, especially like at 20, I feel like there has to be a thing in your brain that goes like, this is like a new person. Like this person doesn't get a lot of stuff. It's and I think that in and of itself can be ripe for manipulation, ripe for coercion and stuff. But again, I'm not saying that I necessarily know if that's happening here. I will say it's very like avoidant attachment style to be for Lyric to say what they want their goals to be, to live with their significant other, and Pirate Software kind of is brushing him off, being like, well, good luck on that. It's a good, solid, positive plan. They're kind of he's detaching himself from like Lyric in a way, and it's an awkward conversation. It's a very awkward conversation. Sorry, my cat just meows. And it's uncomfortable to read, even for me, because it's like he is so detached. Yes, come in, Bella. But I mean, could you say that it's understandable that he'd be so detached after all this time, after like the events of things? Like, I don't know, maybe it's kind of valid there. But then again, I would say that like when it comes to attachment and stuff, it's not healthy. Alright, so hold on, let me go up a bit. Then we have the annotated transcripts. That's it, really. That's it for the abandonment stuff. That's it for the abandonment stuff. I don't really see an abandonment here. I don't know what that means. I think that Thor is just experiencing his own form of like detachment. Lyric already had like a detachment kind of period with the relationship, so stop. So I guess that's that section, huh? Alright, so we have the dating Thor section, which is really just like a summarization of the text messages we already went through, where Lyric is like, I want to date you, Thor, and like, do you want to date me? And Thor's like, yes. So we really don't have to go over this section like at all, I don't think. Oh, let's see. He uses not being in a relationship as a reason why he should not allow others to talk about it, which is controlling, which is what he says is why he doesn't want a relationship, because he doesn't want to be controlled. Say what? Thor frames previous argument as something that I personally put him through by calling them surprises like this. Yeah, I don't want any more surprises like this. Well, it probably is kind of surprising that like a dude that you're with is erotic role-playing with someone else, but it seems to me like it was surprising because Thor had one idea of how the relationship was and Lyric had a different idea. So again, it's like, it's a miscommunication, really. Thor makes it Lyric's burden to prove that they are loyal only to him, even without the label of a relationship. It is now in Thor's best interest to then not bring up the topic again. The idea of complete devotion has been instilled in me. Thor has gotten exactly what he wanted. He never brings up this conversation again so as to not stir the pot. Or maybe he just wants to move forward. Like, I feel like Lyric, I understand that this is very personal and you're not going to interpret things in the best faith. But some of these annotations do feel like really quite downright. I don't know. It's like you're thinking of like, what is like the worst possible thing that I could interpret this way? Okay, let's put that in. Like, that's genuinely how it feels like to me. And I'm sorry if that's not what you meant, but that's how it's coming off. And I don't think that makes a good mark for your case, unfortunately. So here we're going to go into the specifics of donating the savings, right? So we already talked about the savings. Lyric didn't specify how much money that would be. Okay, that's fine. Still, oh my god, August 30th. So again, this is all a lot of this stuff all happened in like the same conversation. So yeah, Lyric is like, dude, I would give you all my savings. Thor's like, holy shit. I don't even, like, to me, yeah, I would not say this. I would not say this to that. I would be like, dude, you don't need to do that. That's crazy. Like, please take care of yourself. Don't be weird. Don't be weird. Oh, sorry. My cat. Okay, so then Thor's like, it wouldn't make the game free, but it would definitely make it so we didn't have to worry about shit anymore. Now, keep in mind, at this point in time, Thor is only streaming to like 50 viewers and has 6,000 followers around. So, you know, that's, yeah, it's not a lot of, support, I guess. So, Thor currently has troubles, and donating all your savings will definitely make all these troubles go away. Yeah, see, if I was Thor, I would not say this because I do agree, I don't think this makes him out to be anyone good. I do not think this is good. This is not good. Let's look at this. I'll see what I can do. Ooh, those companies wanted 100% of our game sales for 250k. Honestly, I would never do that. What? Isn't the game selling for $10? They're valuing you at 25,000 sales? First of all, they way underestimate you and your community. That's true, but you're not going to charge more to people who buy later, right? Okay. Hey Thor, have you ever slept with someone in a Discord call, oh whoa? Yes. Oh, something you do often? I try to. It's cool you have friendos that are comfy with that. Oh my god. Alright, okay, what's... Would you want to sleep call sometime? Sure, we could do that at some point. Okay. What a sidebar. So yeah, we have, donating, oh. Hey, stream's up. Watching now. Lyric donates $50. You crazy, Wolf. What? Yeah, dude, I got, that, sick YouTube ad revenue. Yeah, I mean, looking at Lyric's channel, they pull it in, like, millions of views, man. Millions of views. They have, like, almost 300k subs now, I think. But that's now. I don't know what it was like back then. I think back then, they might have been also making millions of views. I don't know. I mean, $1,000 a month from YouTube, job, and donations? Damn. And it goes into investments? Damn. Damn, girl. You're going good. So then we have the Kickstarter campaign, which we already talked about. The minimum, okay, they need to raise 6k on the Kickstarter to pull it off. So, there pledges 100, and then Thor starts talking about the Kickstarter maybe failing. Let's have a look at the context of that. I'd say though, credit to Lyric, this is a pretty good website. It's reasonably well easy to navigate. So, I don't know, I like it. Like, it's good though. It's a good website. I hope you get a job from this website, Lyric. Hey you, looks like the Kickstarter might fail, according to Thor. I have nothing to offer at a higher tier. They could add a single $500 one. Hello, how's your evening? Going okay, just got back to my desk, about to start up dev stream. Why did you pledge 500? You didn't have the muns? Ah! Yes, I do have the money. Credit. Oh. So here's the interesting thing. They're paying with PayPal credit. You have to pay them back eventually, though. Yeah, I have the money. I just use credit because I get 1.5% cash back. Yeah, what is this? Oh yeah, that was that. Okay, we already went through that. And then they're talking about the title, yada yada. And then the docs thing. Okay. So yeah, Thor mentioning the Kickstarter might fail. Look, it's September 19th. You can reasonably assume that he's just talking to, like, this guy that he likes, and he's being vulnerable and talking about it. That being said, this is, again, where the problem comes with their foundation. They've created a foundation with money. With this transactional idea that I give you money and you give me affection. I don't know if I can say that it's entirely one person's fault in this situation. It seems like they're kind of both a little bit at fault. And I hate to do both sidesism, but it kind of feels like that. So they increased their pledge to 500, we already know that. Yep. So nervous about Kickstarter, I guess people don't really want it. Okay, what about this? This is interesting. Okay. I guess people don't really want it. I pinged everyone on my server about it. Maybe something will happen. Don't give up. Got a fully unbound paladin now. Wait, what? You mean a whole heckin' lot to me. Same. It's talking about games? Okay. Oh my god, what is this? Yeet, hey Thor, do you think I should drop out? I mean, I have something to fall back on for that. I'd at least finish this year and get my associates. Get your associates, take a year off, focus on your creative work, see if it takes you anywhere. If it doesn't, pick back up. No sense dropping out mid-year. Also, no sense doing something you don't enjoy. Oh, that's nice. Okay, it's not bad. It's not bad, advice, I think. Okay, so then they're talking about, I grew up in China, my grandma made the best egg drop soup. Okay. You just go through and ban the spam and giving him attention if it's negative. What? Who is that? Okay, I guess they had problems with some dude. The dude's compromised a few thousand legit users with a shitty OAuth scraper, so I'm helping their blue team fix it. Oh. Eventually the dude will forget to use the VPN cycling. I'm just an old hacker and he's a young one. He thinks about rep and vuln cred without knowing what exactly gets people caught. I was literally him when I was 16 and I got caught hilariously by someone like me now, so there you go. I used to really want to be a hacker. Oh, they got their YouTube badge. That's pretty exciting. Nice. Okay, what is this? Okay, some game. Sorry, voice. Hey, man. Okay, what? Oh, you ask me things you want to know about the game, make you into not. What's okay. Wait, what? What is this? Hey man, I'm planning to give the tweet, Reddit post, and Discord post some time, but it doesn't seem like it's getting traction with my previous interview. The question is, my plan was to get some insight, that's not how you spell insight, into indie dev and help plug the Kickstarter at the same time, but it seems I don't have the reach to even inspire people to ask this question. Sorry for wasting your time. Tell me this, like, man, you legit have no idea what the fuck you're doing if you rely on the internet to write all your questions for you. Okay. What are we doing? I'm like so lost. What are we doing? I'm like, I have to read all this. Oh my god. Juicy. Nothing happened, we lost 3 viewers. Can you make all my financial problems disappear and get our stream to 300 viewers, lol? Could you do that ever? But how? I have no idea what I'm known for. I'm just a ferret under a lot of pressure with minimal resources. Oh, yeah, okay. Wow, okay, well, I mean, he might be saying that, like, sarcastically, but even then, that's kind of, come uncomfortable. Hey Thor, I enjoy watching a stream. Sometimes it feels like you're hanging out with me when you're live. That is the entire idea. Okay. 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 Yeah, alright, let's get out of this hellhole. So yeah, that Lyric increases their pledge to $3,000 about a month later, to help the campaign reach its $6,000 goal. And then following that, it reached the goal. Yippee! And then he had a very big, Thor had a very, very big response to that, because that is a lot of money. Oh, let's read this. What the fuck? You don't have the money. Credit, that counts. I have 0 APR until like next year. Spend it on much else. Might as well make a dream come too. Jeez. Is this? I can't believe you. You're just supportive so much it's insane. I really hope you're doing this because you believe in what I'm doing and not because you're interested in me. Oh, jeez. Jeez. Thor, if you had to be saying that, like, you gotta know that that's, like, not good. Playing Jack in the Box with someone. Saying, wait, what? They say, hey Thor, I love you. Thor just sends an emote, that's it. I think I can always talk things out with you and I feel like you'd always listen. I really appreciate that. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god. Yeah, okay. Anyway. Okay, Thor's saying the Kickstarter has actually lost money today. People saw it hit 100% and then bailed. It's all good that it's still funded. Okay. They're sharing music. They have ESEX again. They have ESEX again. And again. Thor, I'm gonna be the tall one in all of these. Lyric says they're 5'9" and Thor says they're 6'2". 6'2"? Okay. Alright, awesome. Yeah, I don't really like people seeing me be lovey on anyone. It really kind of bothers me, actually. Don't know why. I've always been that way. I hope it's not an issue. Huh. Okay. I just don't like showing vulnerability in public, that's all. Okay. What secret fetishes do you have? Do you have any bad dragon knotted toys? Yes, I've never taken it. The other day I took it down to the top of the knot. It was the most I've taken it, and it was just bad. Alright, here we go back to the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter's going well. Hopefully no one backs out at the last minute. Saw you decreased your pledge by a lot. Everything okay? Yeah, I just saw that it was being, like, super funded. I really just intended to push it to the goal. Yeah, and then Thor was kind of worried that at the last second people would just back out so it would fail. Which I never actually considered that being a part of, like, Kickstarter stuff. That people would actually do that. But I suppose it's possible. Yeah, I just never considered that. Thor was like, I didn't realize your intention was to just, get it to the goal. And then Lyric's like, look, if some payments decline and you get less than you need, I'll PayPal you the difference. So anyway, that's all the donation, like the money stuff. In the aftermath, Thor actually refunded Lyric's pledge. Now, I was like, you know what? That's pretty base. That's pretty good. After the whole, like, incident at Twitch and, TwitchCon and blocking Lyric, he refunds it. Lyric thinks that Thor simply refunded the pledge just because he didn't want to fulfill the tier benefit, which was a Polaroid art piece of Lyric's OC and the dog from the game that he made. Was it Heartbound? I'm getting confused here, but that's kind of what we have the gist of it. I think at the end of the day, it was a good thing for him to refund it. That must not have been easy to do, but I can see Thor not wanting to have anything to do with Lyric, and that's well within his right, I think. I don't think there's like a criticism there, personally. They had the TwitchCon thing where they met up. They had the thing with the final conversation that they had together, which is where Lyric confronted him, Thor, kind of, being like, I heard you had a wife. Now let's go through this in here. And you talk about you something, the future, and Lyric's like, if I'm gonna be in your future, I heard that you got other stuff going on. I want to talk about that with you. Not a conviction, but I'm a bit confused. Thor's like, we're fooling around and seeing if we're compatible. And then Thor's like, you've been pushing for a lot of commitment kind of thing, but I have a lot of work stuff going on, not a lot of time. Interesting, because it's almost like Lyric was the one who said this at the very beginning, which was very bizarre. Very bizarre to see the tables kind of turn like that, you know? So then Lyric's like, you have a wife, apparently, and Thor's like, is there a ring on my finger? Lol. Which is not really a denouncement of that. It's not really like saying, no, that's not true. I don't know where you heard that. That's like a lie. He's like, do I have a ring on my finger? No. Neat. He's like, neat. So yeah, there's not a ring on your finger. I just heard about it. I was like, neat. Lyric, I don't want to jump to conclusions, so I want to talk about it. And then Thor's like, it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. How is it? How is it weird? It's like, not only is he like, do I have a ring on my finger? This is weird. He doesn't say anything like, where did you hear that from? Like, who told you that? Like, no, that's not true. Like, his response to this thing is very unusual, and the only reason I can think of for why it's so unusual of a response is that there has to be some truth in it, you know? And Lyric's saying that it feels like they're in an I feel like I'm in an awkward place right now. Thor says, nice. Thanks for the giant awkward bomb. Thanks for the giant awkward bomb. And Lyric's like, I'm sorry. Why are you sorry, Lyric? You're asking if he has a wife. That's completely valid. Like, come on, 10 toes down. Say more about that. I'm asking if you have a wife. Can you be more direct? Like, Thor being like, thanks for the giant awkward bomb. Don't love that. So then, Thor's like, no, you're not sorry. You're sending logs to Shay. And Lyric's like, I don't know what you want. Thor's like, please leave me alone. You showed Shay logs of our conversations, and now he's talking to me about them. This is what I was talking about with the pronouns back then. I'm sure that Shay was like a he. Okay, so that's where the confusion might be for you if you're confused. Why that would ever be okay is beyond me. And then Lyric's like, I can't believe you. And Thor's like, I don't care, dude. Nothing is even going on. And then Lyric says, look, when I showed Shay, I had no idea how deep this ran. Thor said how deep this ran, lol, definitely not discussing this with you. And then that is the end of their conversations from there on. Yeah. So, I found this kind of interesting with, like, the relationship there. Very interesting. There's some things here I'll point out later on, but that's their final conversation. Apparently it's still a work in progress. Yeah. So then there's an annotated script. I don't know why Lyric wasted their time doing this. Is there a ring on my finger? Lol. I just think Thor is just, like, being obtuse. Do we have a timeline? Okay, I don't care about the timeline, to be honest. Now, here's something that I thought was very interesting, which is Lyric's chargeback. So, on March 6, 2019, Lyric says they lied to PayPal, saying the $800 donation was intended to be $8. I explained that there was a technical issue and pointed out all the small donations that they had so that they could establish that as a pattern for their spending and be like, yeah, this is bizarre for me to do. I'm sure it was pretty bizarre for you to do, but not for that reason. Yeah, so then they feel like they were under pressure from Thor to help finance his stuff. Yep. And then Shay says, interesting, that they were not contacted to discuss Lyric's interest in a chargeback until early March. Speaking to PayPal representatives, the case was not opened until the 6th of March. And Shay's basically like, look, I'm an artist and I know how this works, and this is not how it works. So then, Lyric is saying that they did contact them about chargeback on February 2nd. But they just wanted to make sure their side of the story was entirely unquestionable. So we have like an email thing from there. I don't really want to download it. Oh, okay, cool. Oh! So this is the email. Thor says, you're welcome to attempt a chargeback and I'll be disputing if you do so. Have a nice day. Thanks. February 2nd. It seems like it may be true that... Oh. Okay. Wow. Are we catching Pirate Software in a lie here? Ugh, okay. That's not good for his case. If this email is real and correct, might be, might not be. Let's remember that. Yeah, okay. So then he says, the page carries a confirmation prompt with every donation as you paid by PayPal. They have a mandatory checkout page for every donation. Further, your name was displayed in the donation banner for $800 next to it for the next several months. So he's trying to say, like, you were well aware it was $800 and you meant it. And then he's saying you waited 159 days to bring this to our attention, no longer eligible for chargeback. And as per the public policy that you agreed to in making this donation will not be refunding. Yeah, so they have a policy on their Twitter, or no, not their Twitter, like their Twitch, where it's like all donations are final. I see a lot of people who do this, and I just have to say, guys, I don't think that actually has any, I don't think that holds any water to the situation, especially this one, because PayPal actually came and said, listen, even though you have this, this term in your donations, it doesn't apply to PayPal credit. It's a workaround, if you will. So, it's very interesting how that works. Yeah. Or it's because he's using an external financer or something. That's... Fuck, that's like something that the tweet that Pirate Software said. Because he did say what PayPal said to him. And they made the chargeback go through. Yeah, so his whole argument, Thor's argument is that it's been past 120 days, you cannot charge back. Turns out you can if you're using PayPal credit. Yeah. So then copyright striking. All the videos that LyricWulf did for the Heartbound music, doing like piano tutorials, was all copyright struck. Yeah. Yeah, again, like I can kind of... Look. Is this extremely immature now? Are we getting to immature parts of the thing? Yes, we are. Immature from both sides. Look, if I was Lyric and I donated that much money to someone and then almost like a year later went, I'm gonna charge it back. I have to say, I think that that is a time for reflection. That is a time to reflect on that and be like, look, is this the consequences of my own actions? I think so, yes. And, you know, we have to think about PayPal credit chargeback. I wonder how much more that would have been, because I don't think it would have ended up being just $800 back. I think it would have been, like, way more, right? So, I don't know, but this was something that I really fucking hated reading, the reflection that LyricWulf wrote. LyricWulf's reflection is this. I understand now that I was put under financial pressure from Thor, both towards his Kickstarter and also to him directly. These pressures would coerce me to make unreasonably large donations. Is that your only reflection? If that's your only reflection on this whole thing, it's telling me that at your age now, which is like, what, you're 27 now? If you haven't had any other reflections apart from that, I think you're still quite immature, in my opinion. I think that you haven't learnt your lesson. I think that I would like to see a more well thought out reflection than just this. Because what this says to me is you're like, I get it now. Upon reflection, I've realized it was actually all his fault. Yeah. It's like, come on, dude. come on, dude. Let's not be like that. That's quite immature. So then there's a lot of yada yada about like all the docs, and then oh my god, we're about to get to proxy blackmail with LyricWulf's partner and Shay. Oh, it never ends. Oh, it never ends. Holy shit. It never fucking ends. So, let's see. We are 2019. Okay, they have time period. Awesome. Thank you, Lyric. Now, in this situation, we have Thor, we have Shay, and then we have Lyric's partner. So, apparently what happened is Lyric's partner had a mutual connection to Shay, and that's how they got in contact with Shay. And then they were talking to Shay, being like, oh, you know, like, let's come to an agreement here. Let's, like, you know, amicably resolve this. And Shay's like, well, Lyric's attacking us daily on Twitter, yada yada yada, can you get him to stop? Now Shay is saying a part of his attack messages he posted chat logs which were modified and contained, they say it contained our lead developer's personal phone number, which they mean Thor's. I don't know why they worded it like that. Okay. Which is interesting that they say that they were modified chat logs that contained the phone number. I have no idea what Shay's referring to, because the whole part about that Google Doc that had the chat logs originally is that they were meant to not be modified because they wanted it to be, like, honest. Lyric wanted it to be honest, right? To a fault, I think. So yeah, there's some problematic stuff in there. Feels, yeah, that feels like kind of like a lie to me, or it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and the way that Shay's like saying all that is very odd. That's how I feel about it. There's something about Shay that I can't quite put my finger on. Shay is very, very, in my opinion, I get the impression of Shay is that they're very private. That's it. There's nothing wrong with being private, right? Alright, so then Lyric's partner is saying that they can't forgive that Lyric basically doxed those people. Like, that's a big yikes. So then Lyric's partner tries to convince Lyric to put everything down, like take down everything. And then what ended up happening is Pirate Software and Shay, they didn't delete any of their stuff, not really. That's apparently what happened. Yeah. Now, the conversation between Lyric and their partner is what really was interesting to me. So they're promising to take down all the chargeback stuff against Lyric, and they have no intention to make it public. They just need to take them down. That's why they mentioned on stream, tweet about it, retweet it again and again. And Lyric's partner is like, don't push this any further. They're angry because you did the chargeback. You know how much the chargeback was going to do damage. Yeah. So the partner is really trying to get Lyric to take some accountability for the chargeback. I'm kind of in agreement with that. I think that was really like a not so good move. Even if like they wronged you and you felt like really cheated and stuff, I don't know. I mean, could I say that I'd do the same thing? Well, I have no idea. I mean, I'd like to do the Jordan Peterson route where it's like, I would never get myself in that position to begin with. Oh my god, if anyone's seen that Jordan Peterson clip, you know what I mean. But yeah, so, Lyric saying the difference is that I'm not a fucking manipulator that uses people for sex and fame, like WTF. Okay. Who the fuck told you about Thor having a wife? Shay. Yeah, okay, but what he meant he used to be. Shay said Thor has a wife who keeps secret because he doesn't want her to get doxxed. That's exactly what he said. Even so, past that, Thor demanded commitment from both me and Shay. But they already divorced way before that. I don't fucking know. He wanted this, but he could fuck whoever he wants. But the thing is, they weren't actually divorced before that. They were still together. The divorce happened in 2019. So I don't know where they're getting that information from. allegedly. So, Lyric is understandably kind of upset here, saying Thor doesn't communicate all the sex partners he's having. That's not a misunderstanding. You tell me this, Snappy. I don't know who Snappy is. You tell me this, Snappy. I don't know if they, like, didn't, I don't know if they, like, didn't blur the name, or they were meant to blur the name there, Snappy. Imagine I tell you, oh, you can't hook up with other people, you can't flirt online, you can't share your body with anyone but me. Then I go out and hook up with other guys. Yeah, that's a misunderstanding. No. I'm fine with ending these issues. No, they wasn't say this is a misunderstanding. Am I the one who's just peaceful together and said it? He wasn't wrong, you both have a point, but he wasn't wrong. Yeah, this is what really annoyed me. This really annoyed me, this conversation. I'm kind of like, Lyric, if you're still, I hope you're not still with this person, because this person's kind of sucks, I think. It's true. It's true. This is one of the parts where I'm like, you know what, Lyric is kind of right here. Rightfully upset to find out that your person that you're with has a wife and is also fucking someone else when they were so intent on you committing to them and not e-fucking anymore. E-slutting it up. I would be upset about that. It's so hypocritical, right? And you know what? Pirate Software being hypocritical, like, sounds like it's a character trait at this fucking point. So yeah, and this so then Lyric's partner is saying like, yeah, Thor just wants a closed sex relationship, and is saying that's fucking normal. They're not understanding what Lyric is saying at all here, which is so frustrating because, this is such a confused conversation. They're friends with benefits. They're friends with benefits. Yeah, but the thing is, Lyric was also in that too. Like, the confusion here, this made my brain just like fry. Like I feel like I'm like ODing on weed like reading this. Like actually, I feel like I've been injecting CBD oil into my veins reading this. What the fuck? I do, yeah, but yes, but this how it is, but it was not communicated. You're also doing it like that in a way that you feel like that. So you just felt like that. Don't take emotions to take over you. Listen, what? Who the fuck is this person? Who the fuck is this idiot? This guy is so frustrating to listen to. And the fact that he's like so on Pirate Software's side with this is insane. It is insane. You are a terrible partner. And I have to say that I somewhat feel like they have this weird bias for Pirate Software in this conversation, because there's no way that you think that that's okay. That someone can be in a friends with benefits relationship with someone else, also be in a marriage, and not tell the person that they're trying to date. It's not okay. And like, why the fuck should you care about it? What do you mean? It happened to this happened to Lyric. What do you mean, why does he care about it? Because it happened to him and it's fucked up. Like, this is the part of like the whole like drama where I'm like, I hate how people are kind of glossing over some of this, because Pirate is not completely in the right here. He's not even completely like okay in this situation. Like, he has made mistakes. If we're taking all this stuff as like for what it is, if we're saying that all this stuff here is real and legitimate, this is bad. And Pirate Software should feel bad, because this is not okay. So that's the kind of the stuff with like the partner, and dear God, I hope this person is also staying out of relationships for like a while, because I just don't think that's a good partner, to be honest. And I don't know why your partner is so involved in this drama either. I don't understand that. Yeah, I do not understand that. So, Thor, so this is where they start talking about like, okay, this is where they start talking about Thor's defense. How he defended himself against the claims. And they're talking about Darvo. I'm not going to read that because I don't know if I really agree with it. Right, it's information about that. Information about the marriage. To be honest, I'm a little bit upset that they are bringing the ex-wife into this like full name and everything. That's pretty I think that's kind of fucked up, to be honest. Yeah. So Shay says, he didn't, I never did. Thor and I weren't together, and him and his wife are divorced. Try to push yourself on him and then on to me when he rejected you. Did you forget all the time you spent on my arm at TwitchCon? Ooh, bitchy. So then someone else is saying that Lyric is totally made up the part about him sleeping with Thor and his wife at the same time because he is not with his wife. See, this person actually, Buccaneer Koshibu, did not read or completely misunderstood what is going on. Because it is not alleged that Pirate Software fucked Lyric and his wife at the same time. That's not what is being alleged. Pirate Software allegedly fucked Shay and LyricWulf and was still married. Regardless of whether there was sexual stuff with the marriage or not, that doesn't matter to me. That really doesn't matter to me. That's not the point. The point is that that is a significant detail of someone's life, and if you're planning on being in a relationship with someone, you cannot be lying about that. Full stop. It is egregious of you to boast about foundations and like knowing all the things about how to start a relationship and like life pro tip, don't start a relationship, blah 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 blah, like Thor's doing. You cannot lie about that stuff and purport yourself as being like a smart person when it comes to relationships. Are we seeing a pattern here? I think we're seeing a pattern here. Yeah, so Lyric docs Thor. This is the allegations with that. The Telegram chat logs remain entirely unchanged since its archive date in 2018. They never contained any personal information except for Lyric's phone number occurring twice. Okay, so this is DMs with Mr. Context. I don't know who that is. Mr. Context. They're asking for the full story with the chargeback thing, and Lyric says they posted it in the thread, but there's a Google Doc. And this person says, technically you're doxing him and generally this will hurt you in the end with that. And then Lyric's like, it's an accident, to be honest. I think his number is there. I just uploaded it as is because I didn't want any editing or doctoring of the messages. I think my number is in there as well. Shay says that they were doctored and edited. Lyric saying they weren't. So we're getting kind of like a weird thing with the original Google Doc, you know? So then, like, I don't know, that Lyric is posting, like, people's random tweets. That's not good. That's not healthy. And then talks about the effects on his life with this whole thing, this whole shebang. Don't care. The other thing I maybe care about is this thing, the YouTube stuff, where slowly started to post much less, and they're not posting any more to their YouTube. And so that's one thing I would say, like, I don't know if Lyrics is going to come back to content creation. I don't know if... I think it kind of matters, like, it doesn't matter. I mean, people might argue, like, he's doing this for clout to revive his channel. I disagree. I think that with any time that someone comes out with something like this against someone, especially even though, like, Pirate Software is getting a lot of hate lately, I don't think it's, like, hate in the way that Thor thinks it is. I think there's a lot of people who like fucking around with him, but I don't think it's genuine hate. And what I've actually noticed is a lot of people's opinion about Thor has actually changed. People saying like, oh, I don't like Thor, but also this is insane. And we do kind of have to recognize that building a whole website for months and months on end to take someone down like this is dedication. But I suppose if you dropped out of college, you probably have a lot of time on your hands, so yeah. I don't know. But that is the webpage. We are done with the webpage. If you want to look through it yourself, you can. I encourage you to. There's like a lot of text in there. I might actually reread some of the text later, but that's it for the webpage. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is the age argument. This is something that I've been arguing about in my head for a while because the first thing I saw with Tectone is that he was arguing about this age thing, and this is a pretty commonality with like all the comments as well. And it's, in my opinion, a very Reddit-pilled argument. I think that looking at Lyric's age and reducing it to you're 20, 20 equals adult, adult equals you know better, I think it's quite a silly way to think of it, in my opinion. I think it's quite ignorant, I think. And, you know, not to sound like a blue-haired Starbucks barista, but you know what? Age is a spectrum. Yes, you heard it. I think age is a spectrum. I will say, the age difference is important to highlight. I think it is a significant age gap, but not for the purposes of viewing it as a legal matter. But as we all know, it's completely a legal relationship, but That's not the issue. I think the lyrics post has never been about the legalities of their supposed romance. If that's what your takeaway was from mentioning age, I think you clearly didn't bother reading the post. So I don't know if you can have much of a grand opinion if you didn't bother to even do a little bit of looking. My problem with this age gap thing is the obvious mental gap. Now, some people do manage to reach 31 and remain mentally stagnant. I don't know if that's an issue here, but sure, maybe it is, actually. I'm also rather shocked that people covering this fail to acknowledge the obvious power that Thor has over a 20-year-old aspiring content creator. Also, the fact that he is 11 years older than LyricWulf. That being said, I checked Thor's Twitch analytics for 2018, and apparently he was streaming to around an average of like 90 viewers at the time. Lyric says it was around 50 viewers, but I guess I was being generous with my look. I mean, to me, that's pretty significant, but comparing it to his views today, sure, he wasn't as nearly as famous or popular as he was then, from what I can gather anyway. But at the end of the day, that's not really like the whole part of like power dynamics. Like I said earlier, power dynamics isn't necessarily about someone's status within like the community. I mean, and by that I mean like you don't have to have like Kim Kardashian level of followers to be like a quote-unquote powerful people. And the same goes the other way. People can be powerful and they can still be victims, and people can have a lot of power, a lot of clout, and still be victims of things. So it can kind of go either way, you know? But there's a lot of arguments over the age thing. It's something that we see constantly with this, and not just this, like a lot of different allegations that come out for different people. I don't understand where this concept comes from. Apparently the moment you turn like 19 or 20, you're like, you unlock this ability to uplink like every single experience that older middle-aged adults have. Like passing the age of 18 means that suddenly everyone's uplinked a wealth of experience directly to their brain. I genuinely feel like people who make this argument that being 20 years old is no different to being like a 31-year-old, it's like, are y'all stunted? I mean, or are you guys just exclusively sexually interested in that age group and trying to justify it? Because to me, I'm almost 27, and I can tell you with great confidence that the person I used to be at 20, dumb as fuck, a dumb as hell. In fact, I think I'm kind of the same age as LyricWulf. Oh my god. Oh my god. So, if you didn't know, in Australia, the 17 to 25 age bracket is responsible for around 22% of driving-related deaths. I think it's universal knowledge at this point that being young and responsible for driving, something that is big responsibility, it's going to be a very unnerving period for parents, so I rest my case. I'm just trying to say that it's a thing where we can recognize in some aspects of life that, like, your age does matter and it does influence things, but when it comes to this, like, these allegations and stuff, it's, you're 20, you knew better. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Like, sure, after 18, you are making your own decisions, it's a big step, and look, are you responsible for your decisions? Absolutely, sure. Sure you are. Absolutely. But it also doesn't mean bad things can't happen to you. And if you are going to be responsible at that age, where is the call of responsibility on those significantly older than you? You know, people who have more life experience. It's interesting how we gloss over these situations and immediately attack the younger person involved, while the older, decrepit person sneaks by. There is no accountability with these older people. It's very interesting, and we see the same thing with women who are victims of, you know, sexual crimes. It's like, what were you wearing? You know, what were you wearing? Were you drinking? Did you go out alone? Oh, you're 20. You should know better. It's very weird, but I'm not saying that age should be a shield from taking accountability, absolutely not, but I think we can all agree that after all of this, Lyric was obviously a young, impressionable, and immature person, but here's the thing. I kind of fucking expect that from a 20-year-old. And Thor, getting involved with a 20-year-old, should have fucking known that at his advanced age. Oh shit, we even have a video. Yo, we have a video. Alright, we have a video from my very own YouTube. How lovely is that? Alright, take it away, me. So, in this interview with Dr. K, Thor actually talked briefly about
how he didn't feel like he could interact with younger people and that he wasn't able to do conflict resolution with younger people because his methods of conflict resolution just seem to work better with more mature and older people. So in some ways, I have to give it to him. Maybe he learned his lesson. Let's not fuck around with 20-year-olds. Let's not fuck around with people who are 11 years out. God, it's not senior. What is it? Junior. 11 years our junior. So my way of thinking is that if you get into this mentality that a 20-year-old is just smart as you are when you're 30, I think you're putting yourself in trouble in a way. I think this whole situation and the many other allegations we have heard of over the years kind of proves that. Is that be a bit careful fucking around with someone that much younger than you. Now, I don't doubt successful age gap relationships happen, but be fucking careful, guys. These 20-year-olds don't know what the fuck they're doing. As a previous 20-year-old, they're out here ready to make mistakes, throw away $800 on a streamer. They're like that, right? At your advanced age, you're looking to save. You're looking to put money into stocks. You're looking towards retirement, you know? You're thinking ahead. They are not. Now, my impression is that we're all very conscious and accepting of scientific fact. That's kind of how I am. That's kind of what I look towards to when I have questions about things. Love science. Also love claims that can be made with factual ways to back it up. So, while it is true that everyone's a little bit different, everyone enters and leaves different stages of maturity at different times. And what is really interesting is that we are seeing over the last 2 decades that adolescence has seemingly become prolonged, lasting into the early to mid-20s, which is consistent with current scientific research indicating that brain development doesn't fully actuate or finalize until about age 25. Now, I'm not saying that you stop developing at all after 25, but I think like the core of like that development, that's where it goes, age 25. And I think another interesting thing that we saw in the text messages is that Lyric still lived with his mum at 20 years of age. And one of my theories about the reason why we're still we're leaving adolescence at a later time in our life is because of like the greater economy that we live in. You know, a lot of people are having to live with their parents for a much longer time, and I don't think it's impossible to assume that that has an impact on the way that we develop, how our development goes. You know, not only that, but research shows that adolescent and adult brains work differently. Adults utilize their prefrontal cortex much, much more, and the prefrontal cortex, if you didn't know, is the mature decision-making part of the brain. It responds to situations with rationality, sound judgment, and awareness of long-term consequences. So let's think about that $800 donation that Lyric made, shall we? Me? Never would have happened. I never would have done that, particularly not at my current age. But I remember when I was 20, I did lots of online shopping, and I didn't think of the long-term consequences, especially not financially. So now, if you hadn't guessed it, the adolescence process of information and making decisions is primarily done through the use of their amygdala, which is crazy! The amygdala is the part of the brain responsible for emotions, emotion-related memory, and survival reactions. Teenagers and emerging adults, that's what we call the 20 to 25 age bracket, their connections between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex is still very much under construction and development. Anyway, I've gone on long enough about the age stuff. I'm personally sick of like this reductionism. I think it's a dumb idea to treat young or emerging adults like as though they're older adults. And to summarize, yes, I do think you're still accountable as a young adult, but we can ask for responsibility and also acknowledge that they're somewhat a vulnerable group of people, especially when it comes to manipulation and abuse. Back to the allegations. So, the sharing of the chat logs. This is something I really want to go into my thinking of it all, and my initial thought is that if nothing was going on between Thor and Shay, why would LyricWulf share chat logs with Shay? Why would that conversation even come up in the first place? Now you could argue like, oh, well, Shay was talking about the wife thing, so then Lyric was like, oh, well, we fucked, allegedly. Why would showing chat logs ever come up
The only reason why Lyric would show chat logs, in my opinion, is if Shay asked for it. Why would Shay have an interest in seeing that and having that proven to them? Well, if Shay was interested in Thor and was with Thor romantically at the time, you'd want proof that the person you're romantically with is fucking somebody else, because apart from that, Shay doesn't know Lyric from a hole in the ground, right? That's my assumption. So Lyric could be lying or just making stuff up. But then when Thor is talking to Lyric, he's like, you showed Shay logs of our communication and now he's talking to me about them. Instead of being like why did you write it in that way? If the scenario is different and Lyric shared them unrequested, wouldn't Thor say something more along the lines of like, Shay told me about like what you did and it was like an insane breach of my trust and privacy and like, that's not okay, and why would you do something like that, like completely unprovoked? Like why is he so, you showed Shay logs of our communication, and now he's talking to me about them. It's kind of giving like the what is it? The cheating husband, his the chick that he's cheating with, she tells the wife, and then he's like, "Why the fuck did you tell my wife that we're fucking? Now my wife's fucking angry at me." Like that's kind of what it's giving, isn't it? And then Lyric says, "If you had have told me what's going on, I would have been fine with it." Why would Lyric say this if there wasn't more to the story? You can't say that LyricWulf had been plotting this back in 2018 and then make this whole story up about Thor and Shay and then finding out after all this time Thor had a secret wife. Imagine being constantly asked to commit to someone and then finding out that person's married. There isn't any reasonable, logical way that I could believe Lyric said that right then and there to sow the seeds for like future allegations for a website 7 years later. And not only that, but in the text between Shay and Lyric's partner, the partner also references Lyric being mad about the secret wife thing, and Shay does not acknowledge that whatsoever. So I think that the whole, like, the scandal between Shay and Thor is kind of interesting, and, like, the fact that Shay and Thor kind of live together now, it's like...
And they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
I don't know. It kind of makes sense to me. Anyway, I'm gonna kind of end my stuff here because I was gonna go through some other things that I've written down, but at that point it feels kind of like I'm going over things that people already knew. I want to say that in the beginning I felt very empathic of Lyric's struggles and with the situation, the aftermath. I read the comments of their post and I felt as though they were not being fairly heard and judged. I read through Thor's reply, and my impression was that Thor was being deflective and untruthful. I still feel as though he's being deceitful, in my opinion, anyway. I did a lot of research reading through Lyric's sources, the text, the Discord, even though the Discord texts were all like one-sided, reviewing some of the tweets from Thor and various shorts and videos critical of Thor. The Discord messages were something. It is interesting, though, because I was initially on Lyric's side with a lot of this stuff, very, very full on, too. I felt as though Thor was being pretty reasonable, though, in the end. In the end, when I was reading through it, I was like, a lot of what he's saying is fair. It's fair to ask someone what they mean with the relationship. It's fair to ask someone, like, what is your end goal with this, or why do you want to be with me, but then you can't make the sacrifices to be with me? I don't know. And look, the many annotations that Lyric provided on the website didn't give me a great impression, and a lot of people felt the same way, especially when trying to inject like Darvo into it. What Lyric described as love bombing, I did not get that impression at all. It could just be different for me because I'm not trying to impress Thor, make him like me. And I am aware of reversing the situation on the victim and then attacking them, but in the messages as they are, Thor is the one who says things were moving too fast. Thor's the one who said he wanted them to slow down, and a lot of what Thor described sounded like LyricWulf was the one love bombing. So, I don't know. I think that the lesson we can all learn from here is to be careful with age gap relationships and be mindful that there is a significant mental difference. You know, you can say, you're really quite mature for your age. Doesn't mean that they are. Really doesn't mean that they are. So, that's my conclusion. I don't think Pirate Software is a terrible bad guy. I don't think he's the worst person in the world. I don't think he deserves that much hate. What I think this is, in the end, is someone who didn't have a good experience. It's a relationship that went really sour, and I think Thor, if he really did have a wife at the time and was with Shay, allegedly, he's so super in the wrong if that went down that way. Super in the wrong. But as always, I encourage you to look at things yourself, come up with your own solution, come up with your own opinion about it. That being said, I think this is it with us and the Thor saga. I don't think there's anything else out there worth covering, but yeah, you know what? I wish you all the best. Lyric, Thor, I wish you both all the best. I hope that you guys can exist without being upset with each other, you know? Yeah. So, there we have it, guys. I will see you in the next episode. Bye!